Well, certainly these women do not need me to make introductions or read their bios. And we have to stay on time because tonight is a really important night, as we know. But I do want to say a few things about each one of my panelists. What they all have in common is that they're advocating and inspiring women, and they're change makers. And so thank you for all of your work in every area that you touch. Krista, I love your title. You've been at Mattel for a long time, and you are recognized in our industry as one of the leaders in marketing and branding and strategy. And I can't wait to hear you talk about your career. You're incredible CEO. I've got the pleasure to know. It's a Time 100 most important influential people in the world, just named last year. And I don't know if we have our Barbie cover, but we've done put a lot of attention on Barbie and Greta this year. So congratulations to you. Brooke, you were on the cover of Time, age 15, 16. You didn't even know what was going on.
I was 15.
15. And you were like the woman, the girl of the decade. You were the 80s.
No, it was the face, which baffled me because I didn't know that, was it like God or somebody that came down? So this is the face. It's very bizarre, but it was an honor. I just wasn't sure how to bring it forward to me.
I love your bio because it says that you started working at 11 months and you were a runway model at 3. So
that was the only time I ever did runway. Clearly, I wasn't that.
But you've had an incredible career. You've shaped my life for sure. And a documentary, and you're writing a book about beautiful older women. I think I can relate to that. So we're excited to talk to you tonight as well. Valerie, where do I start? I'm going to start with you, actually. I'm going to ask you the first question. You have so much energy and so much passion. You've done such incredible work. And so, thank you. And tonight feels really historic. Okay, Valerie. So, with everything you've done, CEO, there's not a lot of CEOs that are women. Of the Fortune 500, 10%, 1% a woman of color. Congress is predominantly male, 72%. And then there's some statistic, there are more Johns than there are CEOs that are women, meaning man that are named John. Okay, so what keeps you going? What keeps you motivated? Help us.
Help you. All right, I'm gonna tell you a story because I do believe in stories. So 1 year for my birthday, President Obama gave me a framed, 2 documents that were in a frame. One of them was the petition for universal suffrage, signed in 1866. And framed alongside of it was the resolution introduced into Congress to authorize the 19th Amendment, signed and introduced in 1919. 53 years between the two. And he said something along the lines of, continue this tradition of women changing the world. And what struck me about it was that we get so frustrated when change doesn't happen immediately. And if you think about the women who petitioned, who signed the petition, who demonstrated, who were on hunger strikes, who went to prison, whose husbands said, get out because we don't want you to have the right to vote, how many of them actually lived to see the 19th Amendment get passed? Not that many, 53 years later. But would it have ever passed without them? And so that thought is what kind of keeps me going. That and watching around our country and the world, ordinary people, oftentimes women and girls, doing absolutely extraordinary things. And all they really want from their government is a little bit of help. All they want from society is a little bit of help to be able to compete on an even playing field. And I will close my opening by saying this, that when I was a young single mom, and we were just talking about our kids, I thought I was holding on by my fingertips. And, I had a great job, I had health insurance, I had parents who helped me out, I had this incredible infrastructure. And so I thought, what is wrong with me that this is so hard? And what I realized is, number one, there was nothing wrong with me. Everybody was experiencing the same thing because of both culture and structure. And I thought, well, if it's hard for me, what must it be like for those working moms who have none of that infrastructure that I have, who are living paycheck to paycheck, if that, who leave their children and are terrified will their kids be okay, who don't have health insurance so they can't take care of themselves, who are really, really scared and worried. And so that's what really has motivated me to care about gender equality for the last many more years than I care to tell you. Let's say decades. 5 decades, I actually would say, just about.
Well, Time named you also as one of the most important, influential people in the world, so keep going and thank you.
Thank you very much.
Krista, Time highlighted the power of the doll in 2023. We had a special edition recognizing Barbie's evolution really as a cultural icon. And I love the story about Barbie and the founder because the story goes that she was watching her daughter play with dolls, and the play was about how her child was going to envision her future. I think that's so important. Not everyone knows that story. What I want to ask you is how, I know you've done so much for Mattel women and to advance their careers at the company. What have you done externally? Have you had a moment there in many years that you've been there that you had to just make a really strong decision to keep that purpose and that mission going?
Yeah, so I think just very quickly for those who don't know, Barbie was founded in 1959 by Ruth Handler, who was one of the founders of Mattel, and she watched her daughter play with a baby doll, her daughter Barbara, and realized that her daughter was really only envisioning this one path for herself as mother, as caretaker. And so she invented Barbie because to her, that doll has always been about the fact that women have choices. And so over Barbie's 65-year history, going back to that purpose, to inspire the limitless potential in every girl, has been critical to our evolution, to our foundation. And as we hold up a mirror and reflect culture and help advance it, that purpose, that origin story is at the forefront of everything we do. Now, 65 years hasn't been flawlessly executed, and Barbie has had her ups and her downs, and they have been well documented. And I think that that's the story I'd like to tell, which actually, you think of where Barbie is today in culture. Last year, there was a pink tidal wave. But 10 years ago, that was not the case. And sitting on the brand at that point in time, we would hear from women, from mothers, oh, I played with Barbie, but I would never let my daughter play with Barbie. What a gut punch to the stomach as a brand steward. And we went back to the original brand purpose of why do we exist? Why were we founded? What is our role for girls in helping them shape their stories? And we realized that we had not continued to evolve alongside culture. We were holding up a singular reflection of societal ideals. We weren't diverse and inclusive. We weren't reflecting the world that kids saw around them. And so we took a really brave and bold stance, and we changed the product 50 years into its product life cycle. So for those of you in consumer goods, that's a really risky thing to do. And society rewarded us, and Time magazine rewarded us with the cover in a Barbie, now can we stop talking about my body? But that was just the beginning, and we continue to evolve alongside society, staying in lockstep, as beautifully reflected by Greta in the movie last year. And it all started because we were able to have that bold and courageous decision going back to what role do we serve in girls' development and helping them become the next generation of bold, courageous women leaders. And that we really do believe is foundational, and it starts at playtime. And going back to that idea of reflecting limitless possibilities.
Well, that's a great segue to my question for Brooke. Barbie's 65. She still is fabulous and looks fabulous. And you're focused on that. You're writing a new book, as I understand. I don't know if we're off the record here, right? Sam and all the editors?
It's very much on the record. It'll be for sale January 14th. Flatiron Books.
Okay, what's the book about? Tell us a little bit. Give us a little hint. Break some
First
news.
of all, I do want to address one thing that I'm not sure everybody knows, but there was a Brooke doll when I was 16, I think, and my mother, because at that time, I don't know what the LJN Mattel situation was, but there was a formatted body that we were being given to use, and then they would just put my head on the body. But because it was a Barbie body, my mother made them go into the factory and shave the boobs down, which is really helpful in high school, and why I started therapy. But beyond that, my mother was so adamant because it was a dual message slightly, because by being a model, I was sort of part of the problem or part of the messaging that did get perpetuated, but I was way too young to really understand that, and we were just paying the bills. But she literally made them go back in, and it cost them so much money to shave poor Barbie's body down so that I could have a anatomically correct 16-year-old body. So I don't think my mom understood she was making that kind of a statement, but in her own way, she was being a feminist. And even though it was embarrassing to me, I really wanted Barbie's boobs, but I didn't get them ever, but that's okay. But the symbol that she did stand for in my life was huge. And then sort of, I felt like I needed to make friends with her because I really felt bad for shaving down her body. So that's one thing I just wanted to say, because I've never really said this.
You and
before.
Barbie are good friends. It's okay.
I really do love her and always have loved her. And I did a commercial for Skipper too when I was a little kid. But in any case, I've always been someone who's just believed in transparency and honesty with regards to when you're in the public eye. It's just always been easier for me to be completely honest. So anything that I've ever experienced, I've just made sure to address it honestly without preaching, just saying, this is something that I'm going through. Please tell me I'm not alone. And that opens up the conversation. My book that is coming out is called Brooke Shields is Not Allowed to Get Old. And on I don't know if we've shown the back yet, so I probably can't say that. But and the book was pitched because I started my own hair care brand for women over 40, addressing their specific needs, called Commence. And it was brought to my attention that maybe this would be a good opportunity to also open the dialogue and write a book about it, which I did. The title came from being in a cocktail party, and a man whose home it was kind of, he was barefoot, which I thought was a little weird. It was his house, but he had a big wine cellar, and I was searching for things to talk about, and I brought up, oh, you have such a beautiful wine cellar, and just desperate for conversation, and he went on and on about his ability to sniff something wine and drink wine. I don't know. It was like this whole diatribe, and so I was trying to think, oh, well, I was born in 1965, so does a 1965 bottle of wine, if it's red, does it get jammy? Because I was curious. But instead of saying I was born in 1965, I said, I'm 58. I was 58 at the time. He knee-jerk reaction so quickly and said, I really wish you didn't tell me that. And I said, I'm sorry, excuse me? He said, yeah, you really didn't need to, tell me your age. And I said, well, I'm thinking to myself, a second ago, he was all like, hey, baby. And then now you can't actually find a 58-year-old woman attractive. That's a sin. It's horrible, Ugh. And I just thought, wow, this is it right here. And so it became the title to the book because there has been an imprinting of me on the cover of Time as the face of an entire decade, of a body and clothing, of all of these things that when I'm able to just mature naturally, it is unacceptable. And it just was meant to start the conversation because it's funny, and yes, but there is a truth that a standard that we hold women to, and we don't appreciate their experience, what they've done in their life up until now. And the minute you're 40, you're sort of given this message, and you see it in film and acting. And I'm no longer the ingenue. I understand that, but I don't have one foot in the grave, And I am being launched as my children left the nest. I am being launched into a new era of my life. And that is the message of Commence. And it is a beauty line, it is a beauty hair care product, a whole line, but developed through, from, and because of women's comments over the last few years. So we're all in the thick of really just, not angrily, just very strongly and matter-of-factly changing the way we talk about beauty, women, experience, who we are, and how much we have to offer and how much we have to look forward to in these years.
It's amazing. Thank you. Krista, through your career, I'm sure you've experienced a lot of the challenges that Brooke just spoke about. And I recently read that you're doing a great commemorative Barbie's 65th anniversary for the Hispanic Heritage Month with Carolina Herrera. Wow, that's amazing. So congratulations. What can you tell us that you have in your bucket of Barbie coming up, or what can you envision as the next doll?
I'm not allowed to talk about that.
How about an older lady doll?
But what I can talk about, you're like, is that, you know, today Barbie is the most diverse doll line in the world. So we talk about how far this doll has come from a singular expression of beauty, from a doll that was introduced in 1959. You know, today we have over 175 plus permutations of the doll, 9 different body types, 35 different hair textures, countless sculpts and skin tones and expressions of individual beauty, and really truly living up to that idea of reflecting the world kids see around them. And I think that I'm so glad that you mentioned the Hispanic Heritage Month activation. One of the things that we're most proud about is that we know that in order to aspire to be the next generation of women leaders, girls need more role models. They need stories of unsung heroes told, hearkening back to the song that opened up. They need stories that they don't hear about through traditional medium told to them. And as a brand that is a cultural icon and at the forefront of, we're a lightning rod for conversation, we take our platform very seriously as an opportunity to bring these stories to girls in a way that is accessible for them, that allows them to tell new stories, that allows them to envision new roles for themselves, just like Ruth Handler envisioned all the way back when she created the doll. How are we going to unlock their limitless potential? And that, to me, gets me really excited about everything Barbie has coming up, and also about what we are doing to help inspire the next generation and what they might do with those stories told to them and ingrained in them. What stories will they imagine for their future?
I love that. Valerie, Jeff Immelt, one of the most incredible CEOs, CEO of GE, wrote about you in Time. And this is when you were named one of the most important influential people in the world. Still are, because you never lose that, as a Time 100. He described you as a leader who is strategic, courageous, but above all, loyal. What is loyalty to you, and why is it so important?
Well, I think he said it because Jeff chaired President Obama's Jobs Council, and I was the point person for the administration, and I worked really closely with him. And part of my job as a loyal advisor is to tell the principal something they don't want to hear, if it's what I think. And I think part of what Jeff grew to understand in the course of our relationship developing, and it was a relationship based in trust. And I think that takes time. You don't just meet somebody and say, how do you do? You might like them, but you don't trust them. And so Jeff took the time to get to know me and get to know the relationship I had with the president. And so he could see that I defended the president, I advocated for the president, but I also told the president what I thought he needed to hear, not just what he wanted to hear.
Speaking of presidents, it's a historic moment tonight for Kamala Harris.
Yes, it is. Okay, sorry, I'm sorry. I couldn't help that.
Just the second woman in this country, and first woman of color to appear on a presidential debate stage. I think you know one or two things about breaking political barriers. Share with us anything that we should be thinking about, not just tonight, but over the next, 50 days?
Don't
50 days?
take anything for granted. I don't know about you, but I will confess to you, because we're all friends here, in my wildest dreams, it never occurred to me that Hillary Clinton could lose to Donald Trump. Just never occurred to me. Didn't mean I didn't work hard. I did work really hard for her, but a lot of people didn't vote. And they woke up the next day and they're like, oh my gosh, what happened? So wake up call, every single vote counts. And one of the magical things about a democracy is that it puts the power in us, in the people. And so when you feel like, well, what can I do? Well, begin with being an educated and informed voter, and not just for who's the president of the United States, but up and down the ballot. If people had voted in 2010, President Obama would have gotten a lot more done, but he didn't because we lost the House. So what I would say is that Hillary Clinton shattered a glass ceiling. I did not realize that our country was more sexist than racist. I mean, frankly, after President Obama got elected, I thought it was a no-brainer to elect a woman. Well, I was wrong. And so I've learned from that. And what I realized, though, is over the last arc, when we've seen so many things have happened that have actually been hurtful to women and girls, I think women now are saying, okay, wait a minute. I now get this. And this is such an incredible opportunity. And I'll just say this. Having worked in the White House every day for 8 years, having worked on a bunch of campaigns, there is simply nobody more qualified to be president in terms of intellect, experience, background, temperament, and strength of character than Vice President Harris. I would have said the same thing about Hillary Clinton. And so it's not enough just to be the most qualified person. You actually have to get people to turn out and vote. And what we've seen over the last 6 weeks has been tremendous energy. And the polls that you look at show it's 50-50. And so this race turns on just one thing, and that is turnout. How many people who are, either early vote or on election day, excited enough about the candidacy to get out and vote? On the debate, look, I think debates are excruciating. I am having sweats and everything, and I'm not going on the stage. She is. And President Obama was not the best debater, and he still won, so a debate isn't everything. But it is important, and it does give you a chance to see how somebody behaves under pressure. And I am really confident that she will do just fine. But it's hard to debate Donald Trump because he doesn't play by any of the rules. And Hillary Clinton saw that. He did not play by the rules. So I'm optimistic, I'm energetic, and I'm terrified because of all of the things that have happened since Hillary Clinton lost that election.
Okay, we're going to stay on time, but I want each of you, starting with Brooke, want amazing people in this room, amazing women, amazing men, of all ages, geographies, titles, positions. One very quick piece of advice you would give. Start with you. Lightning round.
Oh, that's not, I've already lost the lightning round part. The importance of having your voice be heard, and that when we hear words like parity, equity, inclusion, all of these words, they don't just pertain to one group, one person, one type. There are countless other ways that we need to improve across the board.
Krista?
Starting at age 5, girls start doubting in the brilliance of their gender. Age 5. I have a 5 and 7-year-old, and I find this fact offensive. And one of the best things that we can do to help inspire their self-confidence, they need to see brilliant women being brilliant. So go out and live loudly and be brilliant.
Last word, Valerie?
So I wrote a book called Why Not? Why Not, right? Well, it's relevant. It's called Finding My Voice. And what I want every woman to do is to appreciate the power of her own voice. And the most important voice is that quiet voice inside of you. And don't let it be your enemy. Let it be your friend. Be courageous, be fearless, go out there and use your voice to be a force for good. The world will be better if more women are forces for good and understand the power of their voices. How's that? We did well.
Thank you
I'm
so
going to be
much.
spending time finding your voice.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.